Heavens to Murgatroyd, it's another US Gold arcade conversion. ESWAT is a 1989 game from Sega, ported to their home systems by US Gold. Very familiar setup, very familiar setup. It's a bit like Robocop or Narc, where you are a police officer and side-scrolling and you go along and shoot people. There's various power-ups, limited ammunition, some big end-of-level baddies with set pieces. Anything different here is after the first couple of stages where just a standard police officer, you get upgraded to a cyborg suit, which gives you more weaponry, apparently, but we'll see. And we're going to start off on the Amiga with this rather, well, this is the arcade music. It's rather strange music. I'm not supposed to have the text on this graphic has been changed by witty UK coders. Things like karaoke mic, chin gun, dribble bib, and something that appears to say suit adjuster, but yeah, when you first glance at it, it looks like something else. So you start off as a normal police officer. You have to earn your suit. It's a side-scrolling game. You arrive in a police car like, well, so many other games, Jailbreak. There's samples just like Jailbreak. And anyway, we're off, and here's some bad guys, including people on skateboards. Now, I'm not completely familiar with skateboarding, but I'm pretty sure you can't jump that high in the air. ST version. And by the way, my Amiga version's running on a 1200 and it is a bit smoother than a 500 version. ST version, slightly smaller screen, and we appear to be missing some of the animations, such as the police cars arriving at the start of the level. I can't work out if that's because it's been cut down for a 512 ST or not. Now, I haven't mentioned that I'm covering the Sega Master System version and Megadrive versions in this review. I do have copies. I just couldn't get far enough in either of them to make it worthwhile to cover. But we'll have a quick look at the Master System version just on level 1 here. It's particularly evil in how it spawns baddies. You move and fire, it just spawns more baddies. It requires really quick reaction, so it's best played on a CRT. Capture delay just rendered this hopeless for me. Megadrive version was highly rated at the time and is certainly very polished and closer to the arcade.
ESWAT.
In fact, Mega placed this at 32 in their top Mega Drive games of all time list. It's quite good fun, but again, I struggled to get too far into the game, so that was the end of that. But instead, let's go across to the Spectrum. Please stop the tape and press fire. You'll be seeing this message rather a lot. And yeah, please set your tape counter to 0. Please start the tape. Please stop the tape. Please start the tape. Please stop the tape. 30 seconds of gameplay. Please start the tape. And so on. ESWAT converted by US Gold and Creative Materials Limited for Sega Europe. Had an interesting tweet from R. Fred Williams, the Specky coder, who told me about this game. Apparently he was asked if he should help with the development of the Specky and CPC versions. He took one look at the work volume and proposed schedule, and barge pole deployment was rapidly engaged. So yeah, here we are on the Specky, and it's a yeah. The clunkiness of the control system is pretty spectacular. The sound effects just kind of seem to amount to noise that hangs around for a while, like it's not working properly. It's trying to replicate the arcade, but the graphics look like they've been very quickly converted from the 16-bit versions. You can see that kind of blockiness where they're not too well defined, and it's more evident in later levels. There is a 2-player mode. It is a co-op mode. all these versions do seem to have co-op modes on them. Amstrad version, and like the Specky version, there is a lot of loading. There's also a 64K and a 128K version. We're looking at the 128K version. I'm guessing the 64K version probably lacks all sound effects. And we talked about converted graphics, and just look how ugly the graphics are on the CPC. This is like Narc, when that game had the 16-bit graphics that are very quickly converted using automated software to the 8 bits. There's no refinement, it's just this blocky sprite with not much detail on it. This kind of head with some lines on it. And all the baddies are the same. It's colourful, but the colour choices are odd. This is the end of level 1 baddie. Actually, it's not the end of level 1. It's kind of like the middle of... Was the first stage baddie. He spins around and jumps around and fires flames at you. Fairly easy to defeat if the CPC version wasn't quite so lethargic. Suffers from the same dreadful sound as the Spectrum version. They've tried to replicate and get across the authentic arcade look, but because the graphics have been so quickly converted, they just look ugly. This is what R. Fred Williams was saying. The proposed schedule for the development of the game must have been very, very tight. C64 version. And the one thing ESWAT is known for is the large sprites, which you aren't getting on the C64 version. Just forward it on. And there's our end of level baddie, who's just same size as I am. Fires the fireballs at you. Of all these 8-bit versions, the C64 is the most controllable. The sprites are small, but they move smoothly. You can actually jump and it moves when you want it to move. You don't feel like you're getting stuck anywhere. The one-button control system on all 5 of these versions is really annoying because ESWAT requires you to jump up to these platforms that you can see above me at the moment, and therefore you really need a second fire button, but you don't have one. So you have to have this ridiculous manoeuvre where you fire, which fires off a bullet, and then have to go up to make yourself jump. This wouldn't be annoying if bullets weren't in limited supply. And one of the most annoying things about ESWAT is ammunition. You have limited ammunition, it runs out really easily, and in a game where you'll want to be firing pretty much all the time, you're having to ration your ammo, which is no fun at all in an arcade game. I think, again, it's a few weeks since I played Narc, but Narc suffered from this. And there's Kate O'Mara all tied up. And you're supposed to shoot the person behind her who stretches. I'm not being punished for shooting, I don't think, so just... I mean, why is the man wearing a waistcoat? Or was it high-vis? He's wearing kind of high-vis thing. I just need to get past him. This is tedious.
Thank you, officer.
Great bit of voice acting there. As you can see, we're not very far into the game so far, and already I'm bored and finding ESWAT deeply, deeply tedious. This has all been done before in so many other games. But hey, it's going to get better when we get our suit on, right? Because that's the thing about ESWAT. You get the suit on, and then it becomes all action. I'm having trouble. I need to jump up there onto the curb, and I can't. ST version. And we're clearly in Portsmouth because here's a sailor and he's waving an anchor around. It's like Commercial Road on a Saturday night. Spectrum version where it's looking... Look at these background graphics. They are so clearly converted. They've got that stretched look. And I'm struggling to jump up. I need to get up there. And I need to fire and jump. And it's just horrible. Once you get the knack of it, it's easier. But it's all... And you can't blame the developers too much because there's only one fire button, but I'm giving up there, just moving on. So is the Sailor Man there? Why the sound effects just have this delayed thing on the Spectrum, I don't know. I mean, what's it supposed to depict? Bullets? It's just whoosh, 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 whoosh noises. What is it? It's just dreadful. Oh, there he is there. Your Sinclair inexplicably liked this game. I can't see why, but it's that era of Your Sinclair where they were quite generous on the scoring. Amstrad version, everyone's yellow, and it's all just looking blocky and horrible. But we've completed the level, so onwards we go. And look, we get our suits. Look how good our suits are. Look at us, we look so pleased with our suits. And we're arriving like Annika Rice now. I'm going to jump off the side of the helicopter. It's Augusta 109, that is. Not the Annika Rice, the Interceptor. We've got our suit, so it's going to be really fun now, right? We're going to have super fun with our suit. We've got a power up there, and the whole point of the suit is you can get these power ups to blow things up. And look how quickly your ammunition goes down. Remember how I said the ammunition is limited? Well, in the suit, you've got the machine gun, and the ammunition goes incredibly quickly. Which means you're left having to defend yourself just by fighting the baddies, and that doesn't really work. I did let off one of my power-ups there. It let off explosions all around the screen. The much kind of publicised power-ups in the game are a massive letdown. Because they are sparse, and when you activate them, apart from there's one that wipes out everything on the screen, they're pretty unspectacular. Look at those enemy sprites. Just the state of it. C64 version, here we are down in Portsmouth. There we go, we finished him off. Zap gave this game 49%, they also gave the Amiga version 52%. They were still doing Amiga coverage at that time. And a lot of the reviewers point out that the problem with ESWAT is its derivative, and that's Zap's word. It's a derivative side-scrolling shoot-'em-up. And that's the biggest problem with the game. If you've got a rubbish game to begin with, and there's a power-up, you're not going to succeed in making a good port of it, because the game's rubbish. And ESWAT is just a Robocop cash-in. But it misses out on everything that it could have been. Why don't you get the power-ups with the suit at the start? You know, at the start it's just effectively almost, well, it could be anything. Here we are on the Amiga. We've got our power-up suit. Woo. So at least we're going to have some fun on the No We're Not, are we? I mean, let's be honest here. And on the ST, it's just... At this point, you're thinking of games like Dragon Ninja from this era, which are also side-scrolling... Well, Dragon Ninja's side-scrolling beat-em-up as opposed to one where you have weapons. But Dragon Ninja's so much better than this. It's... it's a boring game, and I'm bored, and it's more than boring, it's tedious. Look, here comes some robots, and now we can have robots hitting each other. They appear to be making gestures at you and themselves. There's no pace to it, there's no variety to it, there's no surprises, and it's all implemented clearly on such a tight schedule that it's just so... If this was a colour, this game, it would be beige. Back to the Amstrad version, which at least on this level is using the CPC's palette better. Got lots of colour. It's not a bad thing to see. The earlier levels have too much yellow and white, but this level looks a static screenshot. Oh no, hang on, these baddies are back again. Okay, until those baddies, the commando guys, arrive on the screen, this is looking a bit better. Back on the Spectrum version. The reviews of this game are so mixed. Richard Ledbetter in CNVG gave the Amiga version 88%, the Amstrad version 88%, and the C64 version 88%, saying of the Amstrad version, one of the best conversions we've seen on the Amstrad, with all the playability of the other 8-bit versions, well deserving of a hard-earned dough. And he just generally completely praises the game to high heaven. And CNVG being quite inconsistent here, because Richard Ledbetter clearly likes the arcade game, but when CNVG reviewed the arcade game about 18 months before, they said it was too similar to Robocop and Narc and gave it a score in the mid-70s. And back on the 64 now, I hold the Zap review in the other hand and look at it, and they're calling it as they see it, and it's a really peculiar thing. I just can't see how you wouldn't see this game is not much good. There's one of the more famous bits of ESWAT where you go into a building and it starts to collapse around you. And a man who looks like Hitler comes down and tries to shoot you. Look, he's got a moustache and everything. Oh, he's back again. He's back again. But this works fairly well, and there's some TNT that goes off around you. All quite jolly. The highlight, probably, of the game. It's a surprise when it happens, especially in the arcade. Same section on the ST version. Robot's trying to hit me. Past him. In we go into the building. Okay, right, will the building start to collapse? Here we go. But it doesn't look like it's collapsing, it just looks like you're going up in some kind of lift, because they've not put any kind of animation things down the bottom to indicate what's happening, and then baddies start dropping down and then just randomly bouncing around, because none of this has been implemented properly. I mean, look, he's just getting jammed. And the game slows down and you can't do anything and you just die. And it's all just really bad. If you didn't know, if you hadn't played the arcade version or seen another version, at this point you'd probably be going, what's going on now? I mean, come on, good. Oh, I just die. It's just like some kind of, it looks like a disco full of butch men dancing around. The game does have some nice baddies in it, and here's the tiger from the arcade version that comes after you. Doesn't do much, but it's quite nice. There's also a big gorilla who's like King Kong. And on the Specky version here, we should be coming up to the tiger. Here's the tiger. You can't really see it's a tiger, but hey, oh, there you go. He just kind of randomly jumps around and changes direction in the blink of an eye, but it's here. They've digitised the graphic. They've digitised the graphic, and they've kind of animated it. And, I mean, you can see it's a cat of some description. On the C64, it's a cat. Definitely it's a cat. Unfortunately, it looks like kind of Mouse Cow, Geigerpunk's cat, or something like that, a domestic moggy. Who, yeah, because it's too small. It's all a bit pathetic. It's kind of, that's it. It's the sprites look like something from years before. And here's the King Kong baddie. Or Donkey Kong, if you will. There you go. I finally used one of the good power-ups. This is supposed to be what ESWAT's all about. These massive power-ups you can have in your special cyber suit. But in reality, are very hard to come by and often are not effective. On the Amiga version. And here's a problem. You run out of ammo. And now I've got to fight this monster truck with no ammo. Which I can't. Another problem is you can only hit the big end of level baddies at a certain time in the cycle. So you get the kind of moving around. Then when he moves towards me, I can shoot him once. And that's it. And then I can't shoot him again. And when I die, I only get 20 more pieces of ammo. Which is basically enough for about 4 shots at the enemy there. It's nuts. The rationing ammo thing is nuts. And the lack of ammo when you respawn is even more nuts. Back on the 64, here's another thing. All these diagonal things that shoot at you. You can't shoot diagonally. If the game shoots at you diagonally, you should be able to shoot diagonally. So Jailbreak. Jailbreak did this kind of rubbish. And that's years before. It just makes it horrible to play because you just want to duck in and fire and go diagonally, and you can't. End of the game on the Amiga. Clearly I've been cheating like anything to get here. And that's one of the reasons why I couldn't do the Megadrive and Master System versions. Couldn't get the cheats to work, basically. But we've got a functioning cheat on the Amiga, so we can now go up and destroy the man at the top there who's got these kind of brains in jars all around him. But yet again, I've run out of ammo. And there we go with my robot nipples standing on some wreckage. The wreckage that is ESWAT. If you've got a poor arcade game, then you're going to have trouble converting it to the home systems. And then if you're US Gold, you make things worse by, as we've heard from R. Fred Williams, giving the developers no time at all to develop the game. It's a recipe for disaster, and what we've got here is nothing short of a disaster. It's a highly derivative arcade game, which means you've seen all this stuff so many times before in games that are far, far better. By the time you get your power-up suit, you'll be bored of the game already, and then when you get your power-up suit, then, well, frankly, the power-up and extra bits are so hard to come by that there's no thrill or excitement from having that, from becoming the cyborg police officer, that it just feels like more of the same. 16-bit versions, actually they're quite attractive. They've done a fairly good job of converting the arcade machine. However, still plays like absolute dirt on both of these versions. 8-bit versions, well, C64 version stands out as the least bad of all of these, but it feels like an elderly and boring game, frankly. Spectrum and CPC have horrible graphics, very quickly converted from the 16-bit versions, presumably automatically converted. They are really, really ugly. Gameplay's turgid, slow, everything responds badly, and it's poorly animated. It's just bad. And we know why. The game was converted incredibly quickly, and this is just a recipe for disaster. I could mention the glitches in some of the versions of the game. It's a turgid game if you play this in the arcade, or in fact any of these home versions. However, on a brief inspection, if you're going to play any of these, and we didn't really cover it properly, but the Megadrive version at least looks vaguely interesting, if nothing special.